Arsenal 2, Manchester United 3. That's a bad result for Arsenal. It's a bad loss at home at the Emirates Stadium. Leaves us 4 points, still clear at the top in one major positive. So, look, there's a lot to talk about. This is the Real Arsenal Deal podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Real Arsenal Deal. Rav here, as always, your host. How is everyone? Today I'm recording this Monday morning, Australian time, first thing here over here in Melbourne. Look, as I'm sorry for the flat tone and the flat opening already. As you can already tell, it's not going to be easy. Luckily, there's a part of me that doesn't want to record. I just want to crawl back into bed and hide right after a result like that, especially after being awake since 3:30 a.m. And it's a bit of a throwback over the years, over the many decades that I followed Arsenal, and I question my life choices sometimes when I'm up at insane hours of the night and morning, and I stare at the ceiling, trying to get back to sleep and trying to process what did I just watch, what's just happened, and and you don't really get that time back. You don't get the sleep back. It can be pretty unforgiving at times, but you know what? We show up, we front up, and I will still try and record something here that may be of value to some people. I also fully expect that I don't expect many people to listen to this. I imagine my numbers will be quite down. Not that it's about that, because if you're like me, when there's a loss like this, you kind of want to just move on and move away and look away and not consume all the content. The exact opposite when Arsenal have a massive win, especially circumstances of a win can really give you a boost. It can give you a boost for several days, really. I remember I was riding the wave of that Newcastle win, that last second Gabriel winner to win it at St. James's Park a few months back. I was consuming all the content afterwards, like every single clip, every angle of the replay, every post-match interview, or there were videos coming up on my YouTube about fans recording from the stadium as well, their match day vlogs, that style of video. I was consuming everything because that's the nature of football, right? It's such a small part of life overall. However, it's also can be so significant at times. So yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with that point. Aside to say that, look, I don't particularly want to do this, but I will, because you still show up. So Arsenal didn't play well. Arsenal didn't perform to anywhere near the standards, the levels that are acceptable, that we know they're capable of, and that we know that Arteta would demand. So in that respect, it was a deserved loss. I don't really think we can have too many complaints about this. I've seen some references to that handball on Maguire and that sort of stuff. And yeah, look, it is a handball. It probably is a handball. I've seen them given all that sort of stuff, but that's not the reason for the loss. That's small fry in the grand scheme of things. I think just collectively, Arsenal just had too many players that were just. It was a collective performance levels that they dropped. Too many players were offered today at the wrong time, at the same time, and in this league. In the Premier League, you get punished. You're punished to the absolute maximum sometimes against a resurgent Manchester United. Full credit to them. I should have got that out of the way sooner. They deserved the win. Clearly on that, they're riding a wave of that new manager bounce as well. They did us a massive favour last week. They rained on Manchester City's parade and allowed us, to some breathing room, in which we didn't fully quite take advantage of. But we extended our lead. We were 7 points clear coming into this match day. City have won yesterday, closed the gap to 4 points. Then it's over to you, Arsenal, the day after. And United have done the same thing. They've come and rained on our parade, and this was probably more significant because this is the second game after they've come to the Emirates Stadium, where we haven't lost in so long. I believe the last time we lost at home was, please correct me if I'm wrong, by the way, I believe it was PSG in the first leg in the semi-final last May now. So that's a significant time. I also can't remember the last time we conceded 3 goals in the Premier League or any match, really. It's gone back a long, long way. I believe it was that Luton match a couple of years back now. I think it was prior to Christmas a few seasons ago. That crazy game against Luton away there, and Rice wins it with the final header of the game, the final moment. So it's in all aspects, it's a bad result. They've only seen snippets of Arteta's reaction post match. Obviously, he's very disappointed. He cut quite an agitated figure watching on the sidelines as well. As I can totally imagine, because collectively some of the things that were happening on the pitch were quite baffling as well, and very un-Arsenal-like, very uncharacteristic. So Arteta's called it for what it is. He said there's no excuses. We are disappointed in the performance, and he said all the right things, of course, because there really were no excuses for this. At least in the past, even that PSG match that I referenced, we were beset by injuries. Then we had all sorts of injury problems plaguing us in the weeks and months prior to that, and players coming back and players were undercooked. But we cobbled together a team just to try and take us on a special European run then. And if anything, we overperformed. This time, though, we've essentially got a full team. Hincapié and Calafiori aren't match fit yet. They've just recently returned to senior training. But when you look at our squad, I believe it's only Max Dowman now who's not basically participating in full training, not ready for selection yet. Across the board, and look at our bench as well. Across the board, we've got strength everywhere. We've got options everywhere. We've got the ability to refresh, rejuvenate. It was a very lackluster performance, lacking in energy, lacking in composure. And it's I'm at pains to say why. Why did this happen? Why were we so collectively poor? And it's the finest of margins that can undo you. I mean, if you look at the XG stats, if you look at the goals that United have scored from comparative to their XG, it's wild. They've scored two stunning goals, absolutely cracking goals, and from outside the box. And they're very unusual goals for Arsenal to concede. Yes, with a world-class goalkeeper, and it's so rare that we even allow that sort of space forward. But you still got to be good enough to score from it. And credit where it's due. I think Dorgu's goal was sensational. His control with his outside of his foot. I know there was cause for a handball. For me, again, I think it would be incredibly harsh to rule that out for a handball. It's just sort of brushed his hand on the way down. He's kept his arms by his sides. That would have been very, very harsh, and he's just cracked it in. It was beautiful from the crossbar. And then Cunha, how have you given that much space? That's the immediate question. I mean, take nothing away from the finish. It was very special to beat Raya from that distance. But every replay I looked at, when the ball is broken, how is he given that much space to operate in? And he's just got one thing on his mind. He almost couldn't believe his luck. It's like, wow, look at the space I've got here. I'm just going to drive forward, get myself within striking distance and take it. And credit to him. He did. Arsenal have really contributed in all goals. We've contributed to that. We've been, I guess, the architect of our own downfall. No better example than their equaliser, their first equaliser, really. After going ahead, Arsenal were quite in control of this one. We have an amazing record when we score first. It's something, if you're familiar with my channel, I talk about so much. You get that opening goal, especially in the first half, especially at the Emirates, because the longer and longer the match goes on, the more and more it feeds into the opposition's game plan. They sit deeper and deeper than they've already started. They just go further and further back. They time waste. They run the clock down, and that's just the nature of football. I'm not saying anything right or wrong with that. That's just what happens now. That's what teams come to the Emirates knowing that they're not going to get much luck or joy. That they're going to set up a certain way and sit deep and stifle Arsenal, and maybe they can nick one on the sucker punch. To a large extent, we've eliminated that from our game in the last few seasons. Every now and then, the randomness of football throws you up a match like this, where you punish to the absolute maximum. They take full advantage of our mistakes. So we were in control. It was all going to plan. We got that first goal. When I say all going to plan, albeit by an own goal, but I think on the balance of play, we deserved it. We set up well, started well, we're causing them some problems. I thought Saka was looking bright, as he always is. He always does. Some misplaced passes that were just plaguing us throughout the opening 10, 15 minutes was unusual, but the goal changes everything. I sensed a great sense of calm. There's a relief in the celebrations. The players knew that, sure, the actual goal itself, maybe we got a lucky break, but we needed that. It was almost as if they were rallying around each other, saying, okay, that's it now. Okay, let's move now. Let's go. Like, that's what we needed. Let's press on. And I loved that, because that's kind of what we needed. Sometimes you get a break in your favor and you got to take it to the full advantage. But what happened afterwards in the next few minutes was very, very strange. Just a nervousness crept in, lack of composure. The spacing between players as well is something that maybe I'll talk about another time at length, because I've noticed, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but I see sometimes the spacing, how far forward Saliba is getting now. There was even one moment that when Declan Rice broke through, by the way, I wasn't fully expecting him to drive in and crack one himself. But he's played it to Saliba, who's advancing like a winger right next to him, and he's cut it back. And by that point, unfortunately, Rice's shot was blocked by Martinez. So Where was I going with that point? Yeah, sorry about that. I'm a little bit scrambled. So we started to just show a bit of nervousness with the way we were moving the ball around. Then Zubamendi, it was out of nowhere. It was just really out of character, out of nowhere. I think he's trying to get the ball back to Raya, or is he trying to get it across to Gabriel? Either way, I don't think the pass was on. I think we needed to come out. I think he had an option at fullback, or he could have looked for Saka on the right hand corridor. I don't think we should have come in there, and it's just played. It's just bobbled nicely, played into Mbeumo's path, and we know how good he is. And he's taken the gift. Thank you. 1-1. And from there, it was just we just couldn't arrest the slide. We couldn't really get it back into our favour. We sort of limped into halftime, and we didn't start well after the break either. I always look for that post halftime boost because we know how dangerous we can be in the opening 8-10 minutes after halftime. Like whatever Arteta says in the change rooms, whatever they can just say to each other and just come out and play with intention and go again. It didn't really happen either. There was a quadruple substitution, which I'm not surprised by, to be honest. I think by that point, Arteta had enough with what he'd seen. This is an element of the fan base that I don't like participating in. If you're familiar with my channel, again, hopefully you know by now that I don't go in on players. I get abusive. I don't want to single people out and just some of the rhetoric you see online about get this person out of the club, sell this person, get a new manager. I don't do any of that. I just don't think that makes for healthy conversation. And I'm sorry if that's what you're looking for from my channel. You won't really find it here. I'm sorry. So, but what I can do though is just critique what I see and just call things as I'm just a random with a microphone, I know, all the way here in Australia, but I can still just call it like how I see it. And I saw a midfield not working. I saw chance creation, and I think this is backed up by some stats now as well. I think chance creation in the last 4 to 5 league matches, there's an issue bubbling away there. Open play chance creation, we are really drifting away from comparative to the other two. I know it's the nature of the league as well. Goals are down. There's more 0-0. So I know that there's a collective, I guess, regression across the Premier League that must be pointed out as well. However, from an Arsenal point of view, it's dangerous times for us because we can only paper over the cracks for so long before it comes back to bite you. We have done incredibly well, having said all of that, because we got elite coaching. We've got masters of set pieces. We can teams all sorts of problems from set pieces. We're in their heads. We're under their skins. You can see it. You can see it with other fan bases. There's a nervousness that creeps in just by the side of Arsenal stepping up for a corner. So we've done really well to try and take full advantage of all those little 1%ers. But at some point, it does come back to bite you. You can only extract and squeeze every drop out of that so far before, it gets to a point, well, what else have we got? And you look at the own goals that we've been, I guess, I'm not sure if relying upon is the right word, but I'll just go with that for this time being. We have been boosted our last few results by some own goals and by set pieces. And I don't think it's too outlandish for me to say that, look, that's not going to be the foundation of a Premier League winning title, a winning campaign, which for full disclosure, I still believe we will get there. It just won't be as easy and as quick as we'd all like. It's going to be a bit of a slow slog at times, and especially amongst a fan base that is nervous. I certainly feel that. If you are in that camp where you feel that maybe Arsenal, from a mentality point of view, don't have what it takes to be champions, especially with how close we've come 3 seasons in a row. A result like this really feeds into that, right? It propels that sort of mentality. And I totally get that. I'm not here to talk anyone out of that sort of feeling. I understand there's that underlying issue that until Arsenal do it, the question mark will remain. For what it's worth, I still fully believe that Arsenal are incredibly well poised, 4 points clear. How much I'd love that to be 9 or 10 or 11, if we took full advantage of when City stumbled a few weeks ago. It is what it is. 4 points, I'll take it because we can absorb a loss at the Etihad, if you want to look at it that way. Not that we're going into any match, with that approach, but it gives us a little bit of a buffer. Now, 4 points also, as we know, can just come and go like that. That can just be one bad week. It could be a midweek draw or drop points, and then a loss on a weekend, for example, especially if it's in and around that City fixture. I will also say they're not what they used to be. Of course, they were going to beat Wolves. They're the bottom place team. You know, City have had their own injury problems. They've had their own form struggles as well. They lost away in the Champions League. Remains to be seen. Do they have those 2 extra fixtures after the final match day of the Champions League? You know, to qualify to the advancing stages that Arsenal have already sealed. So it's far, far too early for really any much of that talk. But suffice to say, 4 points, it may not make a lot of people feel good right now. It's certainly not as good as it was a few days ago, or even what it could have been over the last couple of days. So I see multiple angles. Many things can be true at once. It's football, and life doesn't have to be binary, and you don't have to deal in absolutes all the time. So yeah, of the 4 subs that I mentioned before, I thought Marino was very good. He's looked very, very good of late. He's kind of playing himself back into contention. I know it sounds ridiculous to say this when we've got Gyökeres fit and available. We've got Jesus fit and available. Havertz coming back to full fitness. Hopefully he gets some minutes against Kairat this week, because that will be much needed for him for the run-in, the final few months of this season. Sounds ridiculous to say, but Mikel Merino is still an option. He absolutely is. Is there a way we can utilize him in certain matches, certain game states, whether as a false 9 or even in an advanced midfield role? To me, he's just a very technically proficient footballer. He gives you a 7 out of 10 minimum every time, probably more. I think he's very good in and around the box, very crafty, and he's just a very experienced head. He's been there. He knows what it takes. So I will be looking for ways in the wash-up of this to see more minutes for Mikel Merino. I know he's suspended it for the Kairat match, which is fine. But Leeds away next weekend, I'm looking at that midfield. I think we need a bit of a shake-up. And again, it's not to dig players out or anything like that. I understand there's conjecture and question marks over Odegaard. He does seem to be a bit of a lightning rod, but I don't want to fuel that fire. I look at it in terms of what can we do? What can we rejig? What can we rejuvenate? Just to shift things, because if we keep doing the same things again and again, this league is so good. There are so many good teams, good managers. You look at the spending power in the Premier League. You look at the quality of players that are even in and around the mid to lower level clubs. With all due respect, to, the Premier League is a powerhouse. I mean, there's nothing's given. If you're off it 5-10%, anyone can come and do you on your own backyard, in your own house, as it turned out today. So if you're slightly off your game, we need to be looking at this and think, what else can we rejig, or what else can we do? Because otherwise we're getting a bit exposed, especially with our open play chance creation. Arsenal have a question mark there, and we need to respond. We need to find some answers. I'm sorry again that I'm sounding so despondent and so flat. I'm trying to power through this and still be upbeat. I forgot to mention earlier that it's my youngest son's birthday today, 7th birthday. So in a couple of hours' time, I'm going to have 8 of his friends, screaming kids, running around, charging around. So I want to make sure we have a great day and a great time for him. And I'm certain at some point over the many hours, the duration of that party, my head is going to be thumping. I'm going to be questioning, why did I get up at 3:30 a.m. Right? Yeah, it's just part of the fun. Part of the fun being a parent. But look, just getting back to close this one out. I guess what impacts me more as well is that it's Manchester United, all right, who, like I've been saying in the weeks leading up to this match, that when they have nothing else to play for, when they're out of every other competition, like you start to look at things as like, like who can you bring down with you? And with all credit to them, they did it against their neighbours last weekend against Manchester City. That would have been massive for them, their fan base, to potentially derail City's title charge or to peg them down in the season. Full credit to them, because when you got nothing else really to play for, you kind of hype yourself up for these moments and just to try and bring others, just to see if you can impact them. And full credit to them. And they've come here to Arsenal, and I've got a long memory. I remember the great rivalry that Arsene Wenger and Sir Alex Ferguson, Clash of the Titans. It was box office stuff. I look back on that era so fondly. And even despite United's them falling off the last decade or so, Arsenal still don't have a great record against them. There's something about the nature and the history of that club. It's still a very big rivalry. I mean, you wouldn't particularly know it if you looked at the league positions, especially last season with how low they felt. But we've still we still struggled against them. We went and won on the opening day this season away at Old Trafford. That was massive. It's just huge. It's huge for us to do because there's still a major rival, and we kind of play the badge sometimes. I know this is a very different Arsenal team, of course. However, you can't not help but just get caught up in the legacy of that rivalry sometimes. And football does funny things to you. They've come out and done it against Manchester City and then Arsenal back to back on the new manager bounce. It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever that in the next few weeks, I don't know who their opponents are, but it wouldn't surprise me to see them go and lose at home at Old Trafford to a lower placed team. It's just the random nature of football, right? You G yourself up for the big ones, and then you can fall away after that. But it just so happens, unfortunately, that they've come here and they've rained on our parade at the Emirates. So I think the next match against Kairat, I think it's come at a really good time actually for the club. We've had that period with 4 away games in the space of 12 days, and we've suffered a heavy defeat this morning. It's a bad loss. We'll have to lick our wounds and get ourselves up and going again. It will be nice just to have that Kairat game. It's lower stakes. It's a different atmosphere as well at the Emirates. Like I've commented before, and many others have, European football is very different. We're allowed to play. Teams step up and play against us, which creates space and opportunities for us to advance and do our thing as well. And we've got plenty of joy from that. So it's a different intensity, and there's a different level of anxiety as well watching the matches the league matches compared to the Champions League matches. So let's enjoy that. I think it's a great opportunity to get some others involved, give them all a start. Let's see if we can play them into form, get their rhythm going, because next weekend, away to Leeds, the matches just keep coming thick and fast, right? That's not an easy match whatsoever. There's no easy matches. There's no easy matches anywhere. So going away to Leeds next weekend, that's huge. We must respond there. We must get 3 points back on the board and just really hope to put into a comprehensive performance over 90 minutes. Let's turn that momentum around and let's keep going again, because it's only our 3rd loss in the league in the grand scheme of things, And so it's still plenty to play for. We are poised so well, top of the Champions League, top of the Premier League, 4 points clear. In a cup semi-final as well, we have a lead heading into that second leg against Chelsea at home at the Emirates in a week and a half's time. So there's plenty to play for still, and plenty to be positive about. So I'm going to close this one out. I know on a loss like this, no one really wants to hear this stuff. And if you did, thank you so much for listening, especially this far. It's greatly appreciated. If you'd consider on a day like this, liking and subscribing on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it. If you don't feel like it, I totally get it as well. Follow the show on Apple or Spotify if you're listening. Leave me a 5-star review, or if you're not feeling it again, I totally understand. So I'm going to bring this one to a close. Just look after yourselves. If you need to stay away from the internet and the reactionary element of it, if you just need a break, I totally get that. Look after yourselves. Be mindful of what you consume, right? It's not all as bad as you may be seeing it portrayed out there. So look, until then, I'll speak to you again in a few days' time after the Kairat match. Look after yourselves, check in with your loved ones, and come on, Arsenal.